Revelation 22 and verses 1 through 2. And he showed me a river of the water of life, clear as crystal, coming from the throne of God and of the Lamb in the middle of its street. On either side of the river was the tree of life, bearing 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. The book of Revelation has come to an end, and Jesus reminds his holy ones of what they were standing for. The river that is coming down from God's throne is pure, bright, and crystal clear. Unlike the earthly water that we were accustomed to, which in many instances was tainted, toxic, or drying up and causing death and despair. In the beginning, it was an earthly paradise that was ultimately lost because of sin. But in the New Jerusalem, it will again be a plentiful supply of life-preserving water for those who endured until the end. The Bible begins with the tree of life being planted in the garden, and seeing it again points to a restoration of God's original plan. The first humans were permitted to freely eat from this tree. Now that we are in our resurrected bodies, we may legitimately return and feast off of God's blessings. Even Jesus himself, after being raised from the dead, was said to have ate with the disciples in Luke 24. It is not a question of do we have to eat, but it is a privilege to know that there is an everlasting presence of God's most wholesome and healthy pleasures. The term healing or therapon in Greek has several meanings, which are cure, worship, or health giving. All of these define what Jesus offered us as eternal spiritual beings that would worship the only one worthy of all our praise. Because of sin, humans lost access to the tree of life. It was the love of God that provided one who would redeem us from our fallen state so that we would be resurrected to see the tree of life again. It is understandable why the tree of life is spoken of in Genesis and Revelation, because here Jesus is reminding John of the plans that were designed in the beginning, while Genesis allows us to see while these plans were established. It pointed to how we would become products of what Jesus produced, and his healing would be forever.